You need to know that I have spent the last 35 years of my life trying to rid myself of this text. Now that's an overstatement, of course, but the first time I encountered this text was in my freshman preaching class in seminary all those years ago. I choked then and choke now on 7 of those words. In the Revised Standard Version, it says, "He could do no mighty works there." What? I have spent my whole ministry telling people that you never use the words God and can't in the same sentence. I thought God was omnipotent, all-powerful. If He isn't, how can He be God? If God can't do some things, folks, what in the dickens are we doing here? He could do no mighty works there. What? Did He have a bad hair day? Was there krypton in the soil? Did He go to bed too late that night? I don't get it. Do you? And then I met the Petersons. They were an older couple that worshiped with us one Sunday morning at Faith Lutheran Church in Cockeysville, Maryland. So I went to visit them the next week, and they came back. And they kept coming back. And they joined the church, and they got very active in our ministries. And then 6 months later, their granddaughter was diagnosed with a rare and deadly form of cancer. We prayed that God would heal her, and we prayed again, and it didn't happen. So I went over and prayed again. They got the call, as I remember it, in the middle of the night. So I went over and prayed. And after that, they were no longer every Sunday worshipers in our congregation, so I went back. And I asked them if everything was okay, and they looked me square in the face and said, "Dave, we want you to know that we're mad at God for," you listening? "We're mad at God for doing no mighty work there." After a while, they never came back. And folks, I discovered that it's a mighty short step from anger to disbelief. And I discovered something else too. I discovered that when it comes to God, a relationship with God is always a two-way street. That God wants nothing more than to be a part of our lives, to share in the joy and the celebrations of our lives, to be the best friend we will ever have. God climbed up on a cross and walked out of a tomb to know every single one of us by name. But there is one thing God will never do. God will never force Himself upon you. God will reach and keep reaching. God will knock and keep knocking. But if you slam the door in God's face and tell Him to take a hike, He will. That's what the Petersons did. They took that small step from anger to unbelief. And they told God they wanted no parts of Him. Their unfaith banished God from their lives. Oh, God will keep knocking. God will knock and knock and knock and bang and bang and bang and knock, but whether God gets in or not, it's up to them. Agnes Sanford. How many of you have ever heard of the name Agnes Sanford? Agnes Sanford was a faith healer. In one of her books, she tells the story of Jesus Christ standing in churches all over Christendom with his hands tied behind his back, unable to do any mighty works there because the people in those churches either were too busy or too apathetic or too angry or too unbelieving to ask him. That's just it, Agnes Sanford said. You had to ask and keep asking. You had to beg, you had to trust and keep trusting. You had to believe and keep believing. It's faith, Agnes Sanford says, that unbinds the hands of Jesus Christ and lets the miracles flow. It's faith that opens the door to our lives and allows Jesus the Christ to come and go and make a difference in us and through us. It's faith, Agnes Sanford once said, that connects the human with the divine. One final story. My dad used to love to tell this story. I don't know if it's true. Doesn't matter. But a man took his young son one day to a museum. I hate museums. But the father took his son to a museum, and they went into a room, and here were a bunch of pictures all along the wall, and one of those pictures, you've seen it before, Jesus knocking on the door, you've seen it before. And the father turns to the young son and said, "Did you notice there's something different about that door?" And the boy says, "Yeah, Dad, there's no doorknob." And the father says, "That's right. Jesus wants to get in through the door, but the door has to be opened from the inside." The boy looked at his father for a couple of minutes and then said, "Well, did he get in? Did he get in?" Folks, Jesus the Christ is standing at your door, knocking. Like the Petersons. If he gets in, it's up to you.